Welcome to the online version of workshop number 2 for the Central Lane Scenario Planning process. The in-person workshop is on July 24th, 2014, and will accept comments through the online form through August 1st, 2014. Through this presentation, we will review the evaluation of 2 alternative scenarios. We want to gather input on the outcomes that are most important to you and the acceptability of these policies in each scenario. Neither of these scenarios is likely to become the preferred scenario, but we will use your input to refine the scenarios we've developed to date and create a set of scenarios for further evaluation. While you're on the website, you can complete an online comment form. It will be available through August 1st. You can also attend an in-person workshop on July 24th. You can always use the Contact Us form on the website to send questions or ask to have your name added to the mailing list. In case this is the first time that you've reviewed information on the Central Lane Scenario Planning process, I'm going to begin by providing an overview of what we have accomplished to date. Scenario planning is a method for considering the outcomes of alternative, plausible futures. In Lane County, we are doing this to help community members and decision makers understand if current policies achieve regional goals, if different policies or strategies might better meet regional goals, and the kinds of outcomes that you might see with these changes. The region has determined that scenarios should 1. Enhance the region's economy, 2. Improve health, 3. Improve equity for all residents in the region, and while doing these things, reduce greenhouse gases from the transportation sector. The partners have also decided that scenarios should provide flexibility for jurisdictions in the region to take different paths to achieving these goals. One reason the region has undertaken this process is because the state has established greenhouse gas reduction targets. To help plan for how to meet the targets for emissions for light vehicles, the cars, trucks, and vans that we drive every day, the state has asked the local governments in the Eugene-Springfield region to do a scenario planning process. Overall, the state of Oregon aims to reduce greenhouse gas emissions by 75% over 1990 levels by 2050. In pursuit of that goal, the state identified targets for each metro area. Our target is a 20% reduction over 1990 levels by 2035. While the region is not required to meet this target, the partners are considering the target throughout the process. The scenario planning process began in fall 2013 with work to understand the implications of continuing with the existing policy direction through 2035. Currently, we are working on step 2, where we are testing alternative scenarios and comparing them. This fall, we'll begin refining scenarios and working towards cooperative selection of a preferred scenario in early 2015. The state has asked the local governments, the Lane County Board of Commissioners, and the city councils in Eugene, Springfield, and Coburg to cooperatively select a scenario. The elected officials will be looking for input from the project management team, which is comprised of senior staff, the Lane Transit District Board of Directors, and you before selecting that preferred scenario. The process is also informed by technical staff from the involved jurisdictions and subgroups of staff from public agencies, institutions, and non-governmental organizations with special expertise around health, equity, and economic development. I'm now going to take a few minutes to talk about scenario evaluation. Some of this will be review if you've attended our first workshop. The first step of the scenario evaluation process was to consider what the region would look like in 2035 if we implement existing policy direction with the financial resources we expect to have. This means that the region would implement Envision Eugene, Springfield 2030, and Coburg's existing comprehensive plan. The region would be home to 64,000 new people. This scenario, the reference scenario, is a basis for comparison as we look at different transportation strategies. Sticking with existing policy direction for a moment, let's talk about what 2035 might look like. The cost to drive, at least the taxes and fees, are mostly the same as they are today. We have a similar number of people participating in marketing and education programs like Smart Trips. The MX system has grown with West Eugene MX Open and 4 other lines. More miles are traveled by bike than today, and cars and trucks have become more fuel efficient, and overall more people are driving plug-in hybrids and electric vehicles. If we continue on today's path, we're likely to see a major reduction in greenhouse gas emissions. Some of this comes from changes to the vehicle fleet and the fuels we use. Some of it also comes from local policies that change per capita greenhouse gas emissions. We still have a ways to go to get that 20% reduction. In addition to the effects on greenhouse gas emissions, fuel consumption would decrease by 50%. Along with that, the local gas tax revenues would decrease. People would drive more efficient vehicles than they do today, but delay on the highway system would increase. It costs less to drive a vehicle, but the cost to own and maintain your vehicle goes up. Biking would increase, and air quality would improve. Throughout this process, people have asked about land use. One recent national study on urban sprawl showed that the Eugene-Springfield area is one of the least sprawling urban areas in the country. This is ahead of other Oregon metro areas like Salem and Portland. That raises the question, what more can we do? We can do more. We can invest more resources in implementing existing policies, or we can implement entirely new policies. If we do some of these things, we will see household spending on transportation go down. We'll see reduced travel delay on our system and the associated costs with that delay. We'll see more funding for infrastructure, cleaner air, and better public health. We'll also see reduced healthcare costs. To test how we might get there and what the outcomes of those alternative futures might be, the project team developed two new scenarios. Scenario B, a scenario focused on maximizing existing policies, particularly with new funding sources, or Scenario C, which includes entirely new policies. These two scenarios allow us to ask, what if, before we agree on policies or strategies that make sense for our region. We looked at 4 policy categories: cycling and walking, transit, pricing, and education and marketing. I'll quickly review the key policies included in each scenario. A table that shows these policies is available on the website if you would like to review it in more detail. In reality, these policies and strategies are simply examples of how we could achieve our goals. Once we decide where we want to go, we'll consider specific policies and strategies. For now, Scenario B included construction of more biking and walking facilities by both public agencies and private developers. It also includes programs like Bike Share that could shift more trips to bike. Scenario C assumes that the region spends more dollars on biking and walking projects and programs, that the region reduces vehicle capacity on some roadways to make way for improved biking and walking facilities, and invest in biking and walking facilities near transit stops. In the transit policy category, Scenario B looks at expanding the MX system to 7 lines, adding more frequent transit routes, focusing development along MX corridors, improving transit reliability, and making transit easier to use. Scenario C looks at reconfiguring the system to enhance ridership, possibly upgrading high-performing MX lines, and developing at maximum allowable densities along frequent transit routes. In the pricing category, we looked at changing who pays for parking and what fees, taxes, and other costs are charged for driving. In education and marketing, we focus on expanding education and marketing programs like Smart Trips and making car sharing available to more households. When we evaluated these scenarios, we found that both Scenario B and C met the greenhouse gas reduction target by 2035. We found, when we looked at transportation outcomes, that vehicle miles traveled decreased in both Scenarios B and C compared to the reference case. Fuel consumption goes down in both Scenarios B and C. Both Scenarios B and C reduce delay on the transportation system and related costs. Air quality improves in both Scenarios B and C compared to the reference case. We evaluated health impacts using a peer-reviewed model developed in the UK and already applied in California and the Portland region. It shows that both Scenarios B and C improve health. This graph shows the number of premature deaths avoided each year because of these investments. Both Scenarios B and C also result in cost savings due to better public health. So, we learned that we can improve health in the economy by reducing time lost to congestion, getting more people to bike and walk, and improving air quality. We can increase local revenues for transportation and meet the state's greenhouse gas reduction target. We can also mitigate the impacts of increased driving costs. Both Scenarios B and C show that households spend less on transportation than in the reference case, even as costs go up. The strategies that really help get us there are getting more people to bike or take transit for more trips, improvements to our road system that help the system to function more efficiently, and reduce delay. As we move forward, we need to keep a close watch on equity, or how the impacts and benefits of these policies are distributed across the population. The equity impacts or benefits will be closely tied to implementation. We also need to make big decisions about which of these strategies are right for our region. This means looking at how much bang for the buck we get, how much we want to spend, and what the private sector can contribute. I want to take a minute to talk about what's next. Please take a few minutes to complete the online comment form. Once we gather public input, we will refine the scenarios into a hybrid scenario or several hybrid scenarios. We'll look at these in more detail. We're still headed towards selection of a preferred scenario in winter 2015. And with that, we want to say thank you for listening to this presentation and encourage you to get involved in the Central Lane scenario process as we move forward.